And Credo Mutwa, who is live on the line very early in the morning from South Africa, 78 years old, a man who has seen things in his nearly 80 years that are almost impossible to describe. He is, as I said, the official historian of his Zulu nation. He has accumulated vast amounts of knowledge about African history that has been screened out and, well, almost completely obliterated by a developed and westernized society. Credo, as you passed through initiation after initiation and were given over the years more and more ancient knowledge of your peoples and your civilization, how was the issue of extraterrestrials, or as you've referred to them, your elder brothers, presented to you?
Sir, first of all, can I make a correction here? We African people, at least here in Southern Africa, we the initiates of Antu, we do not believe that the creatures which rule us and which abduct us are extraterrestrials. We believe that they are children of the serpent who were created long before we human beings were created, and that they made God angry by practicing very bad magic. And some of them tried to fight against God, and God threw them away from this earth, and they ran away to certain stars in the sky. Stars such as the star which we call Iso Lenkanyamba, the eye of the dragon. Funnily enough, the star which we call Iso Lenkanyamba is in the same constellation that white people call the Draco. I don't know why this is so. Some of these beings ran away and found homes in the Muhambi constellation, the constellation of the walking giant, which the white people, they call it Orion. They ran away from our earth because they had done rubbish to God's creation, and God kicked them out. And when God had created us, these rascals came back and they started messing about with us. And the first thing that they are said to have done, they gave us fire. They gave us metals. And they put feelings in our hearts which made us insecure, jealous, power-hungry, and very, very destructive of the Mother Earth, which is our mother.
They put ego in human beings, is what you're saying?
Yes, they made human beings to... First, it is said that when they returned to our earth, they found us living in a beautiful earth. They found us without any language. We were incapable of speech. And they found us living in a land where we could not see the stars in the sky because there was always a heavy mist which covered the sun and the moon and the stars. So our minds were looking at the earth, and we thought that the earth was our heaven. And even today, there are still many African tribes, even amongst my people, the Zulus, who believe that heaven is under the earth, and that the dead people are immortal under the earth, while there is also a later belief that the dead people go into the sky. It is said that these elder brothers, they removed the mist from the heavens so that we were able to see the stars, we were able to see the moon, we were able to see the sun, and we started longing to go up there, and we ignored the earth, we destroyed the earth in trying to get up there. And another thing, sir, it is said that these elder brothers of ours found us talking with each other through telepath. We were very telepath, powerful. And then they gave us language, but the language destroyed most of our telepathic powers, most of our powers of being able to dream about the future and the past. Also, the language divided us and made us very quarrelsome amongst ourselves on the basis of language. In other words, these elder brothers, the jealous ones, the whisperers of the dark law, they turned us against God by taking away our spiritual powers from us. Now, when you undergo high initiations, which involves even walking on fire, you are told these things that you must you must never allow the whisperers of the dark law to trap you with pride, to trap you with what you said there was ego, to trap you with ambition, because ambition was instilled into us in order to make us to consume the earth and so to destroy it.
Well, they've done a very good job, haven't they?
This is what causes my heart to bleed, sir. This is why I had to trust Mr. David Icke and to come close to him, because Africa is dying.
Yes.
Our people are being destroyed. And whether we believe this or not, a system of genocide, cold-blooded and deliberate and utterly unhuman, is being practiced in Africa everywhere. And what startles me and shakes my spirit is this. I used to travel through Africa before the Second World War, when I was quite young. And I traveled through Africa during the Second World War. Now, many of the tribes which I learned great knowledge from have been wiped out. They no longer exist anymore.
They're gone.
Whole community, they are gone, gone, finished. And this pattern is happening all over Africa. In the Sudan, in Uganda, in Kenya, there are tribes, and Angola, there are tribes which are no longer there anymore. They have been deliberately wiped out. And I ask myself, is there no one who pities Africa? Is there no one who sees what is being done to my people? Our leaders, our politicians seem to be criminally blind to what is going on in Africa. In Africa, sir, if you draw a map of Africa before you, you will find that all those countries where long civil wars are being waged are those countries which, if they were left to themselves, would feed Africa. The Sudan, Angola, Mozambique, these countries were once some of the biggest food producers in Africa. They fed the Portuguese Empire and the British Empire. Uganda was once the breadbasket of Africa. But whole populations have been wiped out. And if anyone thinks that I, a shaman of my people, can stand by and watch this crime, then they are mistaken. Because Africa is being killed.
Withering to contemplate about how many people are dying. Africa is imploding.
Africa is a phenomenal continent. That's the point. It's very, very important to the Illuminati. I mean, the British headed there, and for the British, really Illuminati in terms of the powers controlling that invasion. Indeed, the European expansion in general into Africa was Illuminati inspired, and the timescale was brought about by them. And you can follow the different streams of invasions of people from Europe into Africa, as you follow the different streams, you can actually show that from the first arrival of the European peoples in the Cape, maybe even earlier that, but officially in the Cape, right to the present day, and the ruling families that control that continent, they are connected all the way through. It's an unbroken stream, just the personnel have changed. And when you go to Africa, the idea that that continent cannot feed itself is utterly, utterly ludicrous. And indeed, Africa is just a wonderful example that tells the story of the world in terms of the manipulation. There is no reason for one single person, one single child in that continent to be hungry. No way, no need. But if you had abundance and people in Africa were left to rule themselves and to live their own lives, you would have abundance. Abundance equals choice, choice equals freedom. So what we have all around the world, and Africa is a fantastic example, is the creation of dependency through scarcity. So if you start wars, you destroy the food-growing land. If you fill the food-growing land with transnational corporations growing for the Western markets, etc., you create scarcity. Scarcity equals dependency, dependency equals control, and that's what's going on.
Indeed. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we'll pause.
What has actually happened is that this reptilian group, which Credo calls the Chitahuri, came here, and I think it's fascinating what he says about the fact that they actually were here once and then went away and have come back. This would explain a lot of things about the compatibility between them and the human race in many ways. And they interbred with humanity, creating hybrid bloodlines. And when you follow the genealogy, and I'm really starting to compile some of this genealogy now of the ruling families of the world, and they go back to the ancient royal kings and rulers of the ancient Near and Middle East. Great numbers of them do. And that's what the Sumerian tablets and other ancient accounts say, the crossbreeds between the gods and humanity, that they were the positions they held, the royal ruling power of that area of the world. And now the genealogy is starting to show that the people in control of the world today, in banking, in politics, and etc., all these institutions of power, actually go back to that same group of bloodlines. And in effect, the bloodlines of the reptilians are running the planet, and they're the ones that end up in the positions of power. And what's fascinating about what Credo's saying is he was telling me when I was with him a few weeks ago that actually the royal lines of Black Africa fall into this same story.
They're all in
of claiming descendants from these gods. Yeah.
They're all in it. Wow, fascinating. Credo, tell us what these reptilians or elder brothers look like, and do they manifest themselves today? Do some people see them today in your world?
Yes, sir, they do. But because we human beings have got a very deadly weakness in us, we are conditioned only to see certain things and not to see others. To see certain shapes and not to see others. And many people seeing something like a reptile man will not be able to realize what they are seeing. Some of them become so rejecting of what they see that they don't see it at all. And this, you can also find this thing amongst animals. There are animals which are capable of seeing certain shapes, but not others. We are like that. Now, these creatures, we are told, stand about 6 feet or 7 feet high.
Yes.
They are very slender in appearance, and their arms and legs are flexible. Where our arms have got knees, their arms and legs they seem to have no joints, but they seem to be made entirely of flexible stuff. And another thing, sir, they have got scaly skin, and they have got 2 eyes or 3 eyes. The warrior, they go into classes. The warrior class has got 2 eyes only, which are very, very terrible like those of a python, which is why we call them Ntwari, Ntwari, that is a human being python. And the higher class have got 3 eyes, one in the center of their foreheads. The big class have got horns on their heads, or horn-like protuberances, of which there are 2, one above on either side of the head. And the warrior class have got a number of short, upward turning horn-like things on their heads. Now, what I find amazing, sir, is this, that in some films which have been made nowadays, there is a film called Star Wars, the recent one.
Yes, yes.
In that Star Wars film, sir, there is, amongst its characters, there is a Chitauli exactly. He is called Maul, Darth Maul. And that is exactly how a warrior Chitauli looks like, with a large head, very cold eyes, and small horns forming like a crown all around his head. And African wood covers locked up in museums all over the world are carvings from Africa which show human-like creatures with horns all around their heads.
Fascinating, fascinating. We'll pause and come right back and carry on with Credo of Mutwa and David Icke in just a couple of minutes. And back with Credo. Credo, when you saw the Reptilian in the Star Wars film, what went through your mind? Did you view it as an intent to make people familiar with this being, or some incredible accident? How did you see it?
You know, sir, I do not understand the traditions of the white people, unfortunately. But I was amazed. This filmmaker, how did he come to know about such a creature? Because exactly as Darth Maul is portrayed in the film, that when my now late wife saw a magazine article on this film, she pointed out, this is a Chitauli. This is one of our elder brothers. I had not noticed it because I don't read much. But when I looked, I was really startled. Right down to the color, the striped red and black. I asked myself, where do these film producers see these creatures? It can't be their imagination.
Credo, the idea of reptilians, some people look at it metaphorically. They see it as a symbol of an evil in men's hearts and minds, a controlling class of humanity. Others, as yourself, say that the reptilians are quite real, three-dimensional, flesh and blood. Do they occupy the same real-time space on this planet as we do? Do they live here with us, or are they from another dimension? How does it work in your heritage and your history?
You mean amongst the African peoples?
Yes.
Say, the Chitauli, the whisperers of the dark law, our elder brothers, are here with us. And please, let nobody think I am crazy when I say this. I'm asking all thinking people to investigate. Do you know, sir, where you will find these beings? As real as you are, you will find them on the edges of deserts, in the Sahel region of Africa. Ask the tribes people there, and even now in this electronic age, they will tell you about half men who are only half, who have got only one arm and one leg, and the other part of their body is invisible. People in South Africa, on the edge of the Kalahari Desert, will tell you exactly the same thing. And at one time, I was exploring with a great explorer in South Africa, Mr. Adrian Boschia. When we saw, there were three of us walking through the bush, a tribesman, myself, and Mr. Boschia. And we came across a strange footprint in the loose sand. It was like a footprint of a bird, a large bird, but with 4 toes. And this tribesman screamed and ran away. And Mr. Boschia shouted at him to come back. And because he was guiding us to a hole which we were going to investigate, a cave. And this tribesman said, I'm not coming back. This is a demon which has walked here. Mr. Boschia, who was a disbeliever, said, come on, Ahman, this is a bird that walked here. But the tribesman said, no bird, this is demon. And I agreed with him. The footprint was not that of a bird, any bird that I knew. It was too large to be that of a bird. It was not an ostrich, but a 4-footed reptile-like creature. And Mr. Boschia afterwards said we mustn't even talk about what we had seen. Said, the Chitauli are real, and I have reason to believe that they are destroying Africa and my people as part of a strange strategy of their own. And they can change they can appear as real human beings. They change shapes. And
they can take on the form of a human being. Is it actually a physical form of a human being, or are they somehow telepathically able to project into the people seeing them that they look human?
I don't know, sir, but I can tell you there is something that has been happening for many, many generations in the province of Natal in South Africa.
I've heard of it.
There is a church where a strange light is often seen. And if you are a Christian, this light becomes like the Virgin Mary, complete with features. And if you are a Hindu, you see her as a Hindu goddess. And if you are a member of our traditional religions like myself, you see her as the great Earth Mother. So this creature, whatever it is, which has been seen by hundreds of people, shapes itself according to what you believe in.
Understand.
And this phenomenon is very, very common. And here is another thing. Please, people who have been kidnapped by the Mandindan, the grey aliens,
okay, yes, go ahead.
Should have their ancestry checked, because the grey aliens who work for the Chitauli do not just kidnap anybody. They kidnap special people, and in the blood of those people, they look for something. I don't know what it is. For example, I am an abductee myself. I have got injuries on my thighs which no weapon has ever made. I have got a hole in my left thigh which you can put your finger right up to the middle, your thumb right up to the middle. And many people like that who were taken by the Mandindan, when I check into their ancestry, I find that they were descended from chiefs or from noblemen and high officials of a tribe in ancient times. I am sure that all people throughout the world who are kidnapped have a trace of the reptile blood in them. And the Mandindane are looking for this substance to keep their masters alive, because we are told that there are very few of the Chitauli and that they have got problems reproducing, which is why they impregnate earth women. And also, they have sicknesses where their skin comes off at a certain stage, and they need the special blood of special human beings in order to survive. Hence the many kidnappings.
I understand. Okay, we'll pursue this further in just a couple of minutes. David, so we have, again, confirmation of abduction from an African shaman of great stature, one of the only two surviving Sanusis left. He is the official historian of the Zulu nation. The abduction phenomenon does not seem to be something particular to the Western world, once again.
Yeah, I mean, Africa's been forgotten so much in the UFO research community. Again, if it doesn't happen in Europe or North America, then it's not happening. And yet the stories and the information that's in Africa waiting to be discovered is just staggering. For instance, we're still arguing about whether aliens were captured at Roswell. Well,
right.
African tribespeople have been finding them, and one of the most amazing things that Credo talks about
hold on right there,
graves
David.
are not the graves.
Right, hold on, we'll come back and pursue that. It's a remarkable program. Amazing information for you to consider, and we'll be back. All right, let's go back to Credo here. Credo, we've done many, many programs about the abduction issue with the little grays. It's also been commonly discussed that people who are abducted, when they can talk to their mothers or fathers, will usually find that their mothers or fathers, and in some cases their grandparents, will have also abduction experiences and memories if they'll talk about them. So it seems to be something that is followed throughout generation after generation, as you have suggested is going on in your country as well. What are, Credo, what are the Greys, and who do they work for?
Say, the Mandindane, the tormentors, the torturers, as they are called amongst my people, are the servants of the Chitauli, the beasts of the Silo Sengubo, the beasts of the terrible blanket. They are all one and the same race. The Mandindane have no genitals. In other words, they are drones for the Chitauli, who are capable of reproducing. The Mandindane find medicine, so our great teachers tell us, for the Chitauli to keep them alive. For example, say, the kidnapping of people goes back hundreds of years amongst my people. Zulu warriors, when they went to battle, used to wear a very strange object on the tips of the organs of manhood, say, a grass cap. This grass cap was not worn for modesty or for protecting the genitals. It was worn because when warriors were an army moving through the bush to attack a faraway tribe, they were followed, and some of them were kidnapped and drained of semen by the Mandindane. Now this grass cap used to endanger the Zulu warrior's life, because sometimes when the battle really got hot, the grass cap got between the warrior, came off the tip of the warrior's penis, and it got between his thighs, causing him to fall down and get killed. But they had to wear this thing, which are many of which are still being made by craftsmen today, in order to protect themselves from the Mandindane. My mother was kidnapped in 1918 some years before I was born. And then she was kidnapped again with me as a baby. And she could not account for the several hours of time she had lost. And her father beat her up thinking that she was a liar.
He beat her up thinking she was a liar.
Say, my grandfather beat her up thinking that she had gone to meet her boyfriend, but she had disappeared with me on her back, according to some old women who later told me the story. And she reappeared a few hours later, not knowing where she had been. Now, this phenomenon, sir, is very, very common in Africa and South Africa. And nobody has ever bothered to really research it. And one thing, sir, is this. We human beings must accept that we are not alone in this world. The proof that there were other great civilizations before us is overwhelming. Here in South Africa, for example, a huge rock was cut up by machines, a rock many millions of years old. The scientists wanted to use that stone to line the insides of the jet pipes of guided missiles. And inside this stone, which is called pyrophylline, were found incredible spheres made of metal about the size of a golf ball.
I've seen pictures of them, Credo. They're round, perfectly round spheres, and they have grooves cut along the equator, 2, 3, 4 grooves, perfectly around these metal spheres.
Yes, and what happens if you put one of those metal spheres on a table, say, and watch it for several hours? It rotates in sympathy with the earth. You can see it actually rotating without a power source, without a source of energy. This must have been technology many, many millions of years ahead of our time.
I was told that those were found in rock that was in excess of 1 billion years old.
Yes, sir. These things are made by intelligent entities. And anyone who doubts that who says that we are the first civilization on this planet is mad. And the sooner we look into this phenomenon, like thinking people, the better for our own survival. Say, let me tell you one thing, and share this with your listeners, please, and also with Mr. David Icke. Is he there?
I'm here, Credo, yeah.
Say, will you please tell the honorable presenter, say, what did I show you which was found? Do you remember the X-ray I showed you?
Right, yeah.
Of Cecilia's womb, of the strange artifact which was found inside her womb. This artifact killed Cecilia. I should really not be talking so in public, but I'm dedicating this talk to my departed wife. Cecilia was not killed by the cancer that she was suffering from. She died very suddenly. Her blood pressure dropped exactly 3 weeks after I received a death threat threatening her. Say, the Chitawuli or the conspirators, or call them what you will, are active now, and they are interfering even with our private lives. I can tell you things that will shake you, but for which there are witnesses, how I myself am being destabilized even now.
David Icke?
By men, sir?
I was going to ask David to comment. Go ahead, Credo, finish.
Sir, today in South Africa there are so-called security firms which somehow are connected to bigger security firms in England and elsewhere. These firms supply bodyguards for important people, and some of these bodyguards were given where I was given over to them that they should look after my affairs, to look after my money and so on.
Mm-hmm.
But they started interfering with my personal life. They started chasing away wise men and women whom I had gathered around me for many years in order to make a group of wise people which would help our people in South Africa. And also everything that I try to do, everything that I try to create is subtly destroyed by these men, mercenaries interfering with human lives in South Africa, even as we are talking. Say, I have a plan to save the rhinos from extinction by offering the Chinese who buy rhino horn as an aphrodisiac dehydrated ostrich eggs, which is a true aphrodisiac. But my plan has been frustrated by some of these men. And you know, sir, if people doubt that there is a conspiracy, let them tell me, why is Africa being murdered and by whom? If there are no Chitauli, why are there senseless wars ravaging my country? If there are no reptilians, why are we seeing men and women on this planet who seem to be virtual immortals? Should I mention a name?
Go ahead, just for fun.
Say, there are men on this earth who appear to be deathless.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Henry Kissinger is one.
I was going to say, there's certainly some men who seem to be very healthy in their latter years, and Henry Kissinger is certainly one of them, no doubt. David,
Mr. George Bush is another.
Yeah, he looks great. They both do. They're getting some kind of special treatment, or
you know, sir, we human beings must think very deeply now. We claim to be masters of our own destiny. We are not. We claim to be in charge of our path in life. We are not. We claim to be in charge of our path in life. We are not. And there is no prisoner more pathetic, say, no slave more pitiable than a prisoner or a slave who thinks that he or she is a free person. We are not. And it's high time all of us were aware of this fact. There are those who walk amongst us as human beings, but who are more than human beings. There are such things as gods, and they walk amongst us. They control our destiny. They control us through newspapers. They control us through money. And they control us through religion and spiritual confusion and drugs.
Indeed. All right, we'll pause right there with Credo Mutwa. Come back and get in touch with David Icke, who is standing by, been with us for the whole program as well. Extraordinary information for you to consider, and do with it what you will, but we put it out there for you 6 nights a week, 3 hours a night, coast to coast, and around the world live on the net. And don't forget, all of our programs are available to you anytime at all via the archives on the homepage at sightings.com, courtesy of broadcast.com, and we'll be back. All right, hour number 3, and David Icke is with us, Credo Mutwa, live from South Africa. 1 or 2 more questions, and we're going to let Credo get some rest. He is, if you joined us late, the 78-year-old official historian of his Zulu nation, an extraordinary man who has accumulated just vast knowledge through a lifetime of experience and research of African history, control of the planet over thousands of years by the Reptilians. And when he met David Icke, as you can imagine, they had a lot to talk about. Credo, one or two final questions. What do the grays look like? Have you seen a gray yourself? You mentioned you were an abductee.
Say, I swear to you, by your sacred parents, that I, Credo Mutwa, have seen these creatures close up. I didn't know what they were. That was in 1959. And I've got injuries to prove it, which are still there even now. When I have a bleeding through the nose, I bleed through only one nostril, my right nostril, into which one of these little monsters put its instrument of some kind, very painfully, into that nostril. Now, the gray Mandindane, as we call them, the tormentors of people, they don't look like they look like. Their eyes, which are like little goggles, black goggles, are actually that. They are covers over their real eyes. They have got, a Mandindane has got a very large head with very thin limbs. And the first thing that you notice when you see one is its eyes. The Mandindane is about 3 feet high. It's rather thin with long legs and long arms. And it smells very, very oddly, a kind of chemical smell which can give you a headache. And what you think is the color of the Mandindane is really a very tight-fitting costume which hides the real creature under it.
I see.
Why do I say so, sir? Because Mandindane have been killed in South Africa over generations, and when they are killed, let's say if one of their craft falls down, and by some means they fall out and they lie there in the rubbish and they are dead, either their friends recover the dead ones quickly or they leave it there, and African sangomas find the dead Mandindane and they cut it, they chop it to pieces. But if you want to chop this creature to pieces, you need a very sharp axe of the type such as lumberjacks use in order to split the gray skin of the Mandindane to get at the creature underneath.
So the little suit that they are wearing is very strong.
Yes, it needs a very, very sharp axe. An ordinary axe will not cut through. And you will see that the eyes are really goggles which hide the real eyes of the Mandindane. And the real eyes of the Mandindane are exactly like those of a cheetah woolly. They are squarish slightly, with split pupils like those of a cat. And the creature itself it looks like an animal which has been skinned inside the tight-fitting costume that it wears. And what happens is that when a dead Mandindane is found and chopped up by African shamans, they eat this creature. And it's an incredible and terrible experience. They eat pieces of this creature and they develop, as I did, a terrible rash all over their bodies.
You ate some of this?
Yes, sir. In fact, this is what I thought caused the trouble of my being kidnapped in 1959, because in 58, in Lesotho, the little kingdom inside South Africa, we had eaten pieces of this creature as a sacred ritual of eating a god, because our people believe that these creatures are gods And a god must not be buried in the earth, but must be ritually eaten by the people who have found its corpse. Now, if you eat a mandindane, it tastes like copper. It tastes like if you take a copper coin and suck it like a sweet. It has got a strong coppery taste, and then it makes your tongue to swell. It makes a terrible rush lasting 3 to 4 days to erupt all over your body. And you go crazy. You start laughing like a fool. You can't breathe properly, and you can't eat properly. And if you survive that terrible eating of the god, you get crazy. It's as if it's an unearthly experience of such great ecstasy. Although your body is burning like fire, although your heart is beating irregularly, you feel this terrible ecstasy. This is why high shamans in my country eat the flesh of a mandindane, in order to have this experience. So people who say that these creatures are imaginary, why are we able to eat them? And why have they been eaten in Africa for so long?
Yes.
And why do they smell? And you know, sir, a woman or a man who was kidnapped by mandindane carries a smell on him or her which lasts for many weeks, a definite, recognizable smell. I carried such a smell after I had been through their hands, and when I came into various villages, every dog went hysterical and wanted to tear me to pieces, and my teachers had to use a large bar of blue soap in order, as well as sheep dip, in order to try and kill the smell which was driving the animals crazy.
God, they sheep dipped you. Wow.
Yes, sir.
Wow.
Yes, sir.
Extraordinary. Go ahead.
And another interesting thing, sir, is this. In Africa, the mandindane sometimes mutilate animals. They not only mutilate domestic animals, such as cattle and sheep and even poor cats and dogs, but they also mutilate wild animals. Many times, working with game rangers, I have seen wild animals which have been mutilated by these creatures. And you know what happens? The Africa has got scavenger animals and scavenger birds.
Sure, sure.
If an animal has been mutilated by mandindane, the scavengers, such as vultures and hyenas, will not touch it.
Same situation. Yeah, same situation here. It is the same situation over here in the United States with the animals who are mutilated. The coyotes won't come near it, and the birds, scavengers, the same thing.
And a person, a human being who has been mutilated by mandindane, always has a small hole in his or her body through which every organ, heart, lungs, intestines, everything appears to have been sucked out. And that person will remain unrotting in the coffin afterwards for many, many months. I've seen this many times.
Fascinating. So we have parallels in animal mutilation to explore, much to talk about. Credo, we're going to let you go now, and what I'd like to do is, on behalf of all our people listening, thank you for getting up so early. Thank you for sharing your knowledge, your experiences, and I would like to speak to you again at some point and do some more talk about your heritage and history, if you will.
Yes, sir. I am thankful, sir, and I'm honored. All I'm asking is that people of America, please investigate these things. Don't laugh at them. Don't be overly skeptical.
Indeed. Thank you, Credo, Mutwa, very much. Okay, we'll pause and come right back with David Icke. The most extraordinary program, to be sure. Okay, we're back, and David Icke will be with us for the remainder of the program. Videos and David's blockbuster underground bestseller, The Biggest Secret, are available at 1-800-444-2524. So write that number down, 1-800-444-2524. Or you can visit David's website at davidicke.com, and that's spelled I-C-K-E, davidicke.com. David, quite a man. It must have just blown more than one or two of your circuits to run into someone like that who had all that knowledge, which really dovetails with the extraordinary amount of your research.
It is extraordinary, and what he was talking about there was taking us on from so many points that we've been at in terms of, for instance, the Greys are the Greys. Well, as he's explained on the videos and also tonight, there's a creature inside that apparent exterior which looks very different. They know them as pinky in Africa because they're like a pinky scaled creature inside with the reptilian eyes. And so many efforts. I mean, he indicated it a bit at one point there when he was talking about security firms around him and stuff like this. The efforts in Africa to shut him up are just extraordinary. Once I started talking to him, he was visited by two people who left him a note, and I saw the note, and it said, "If you don't shut up revealing this stuff, then your wife's going to die." And his wife did die very suddenly. She had cancer, but it was not meant to, in the normal course of events, to have been that quick. And he showed me, he mentioned it just earlier, he showed me the X-ray of his wife, and there is an extraordinary metallic object in the womb where she had the cancer. And he's been offered money in the last fortnight, and a home, a house in anywhere he wants to name in South Africa. But the deal was he had to never talk to me again and refuse to see me again. So this guy knows things that so many efforts have taken place in Africa in the last few years to stop him revealing. Well,
the general obliteration of African history obviously has in mind covering up all sorts of interesting things.
Yeah, I mean, what makes Credo so controversial and so dangerous to the Illuminati in Africa is that it's not I'm black and all whites are bad stance that he comes from. He points out that the black African bloodlines of the royal bloodlines go back to this same source, claim descendants from these same reptilian gods, and just as in the rest of the world where the aristocratic families and the royal families, those bloodlines in the more modern world have gone into the banking streams, into the political streams and manifested in other ways, so the same as applied to these so-called royal lines of Africa. He gives the example of Robert Mugabe in Zimbabwe, who is a royal line, and he points out that again and again, and you'll find this phenomenon all over the world, if there's a rebellion against injustice in Africa, first of all, you'll have something coming from the people, and someone orchestrating that rebellion from the people. And then, as it reaches fruition and a change of power is close to taking place, then suddenly that original instigator will be removed in some way, and in will come someone who takes over and becomes the president or the leader when power changes places. And he says every single time, when you do the genealogy and the history of these people that come in and take over, they go back to the royal lines of the black African people who claim descendants from these gods. And this is starts to explain, again, he talks about bloodline and their obsession with blood and why they need blood. We start to get a bigger picture here of exactly what's going on. And it seems to me that the ruling power in the world that's expanded itself from the ancient world to its global point today are actually the same bloodlines, and those bloodlines are reptilian, and actually we're being controlled by a force that has been unseen over thousands of years, and it's now at last being identified.
The hardest part for most people to accept is the concept that someone like George Bush or Henry Kissinger or the royal family, in fact, are actually lizards and can metamorphose or shapeshift into that lizard format on demand, so to speak. But I don't know if that's the point. I think the point is there's an evil on the planet and it has a genesis somewhere.
Yeah, I understand how people find that hard to believe. I mean, from the perspective of life that we live from cradle to grave, it's absolutely ridiculous from that perspective. But this phenomena is being seen by increasing numbers of people. And when you go back and you read the ancient accounts of like the Nagas gods in the Indus Valley culture, they were said to be able to take either human or reptilian form and be able to move between the two. Then you talk to Credo and the African experience, and they tell the same story of the shape-shifting. And you asked an interesting question earlier, and I'm kind of asking the same thing myself. Are they actually manifesting physically in a human form, or are they somehow kidding our minds that they look like that? I can't answer that question yet, but what I'm absolutely convinced of is that this phenomena of reptilian beings operating on another vibration, if you like, another dimension, another vibrational field, are operating through particular bloodlines. And it seems to me that these bloodlines, these crossbreeds that go back to these reptilian gods, actually have a genetic, therefore vibrational compatibility with these beings on this, what I call lower fourth dimensional level, what some people call the lower astral, the place of the demons in folklore. And somehow they can wear these particular bloodline bodies like an overcoat, which means very simply, if you can manipulate the bloodline, the physical expression of this, into a position of power, what you're actually doing is putting these non-three-dimensional beings into those positions of power. But because they look human and because they have different names, we think they're not connected and we think they're human.
Yep. All right, hold on, David, right there. We'll pause.
And the more, when you're doing a jigsaw puzzle, the more pieces you find and you find a place for, the more the picture emerges, and the quicker, therefore, you can put the later pieces in. And this whole connection to this reptilian story, this reptilian theme, especially when you go back and you realize about the crossbreeding and stuff, everything starts to make sense that didn't make sense before. For instance, why is it that these ruling royal families, whether it was the aristocracy of Europe or the royal families of Europe or the Eastern establishment families of the United States to this day, why are they always interbred obsessively? People have thought because it's snobbery. Well, it's actually more than that. They're trying to hold genetic structure. Why is it? Another question I was asking, why is it that wherever you follow these bloodlines, Jeff, from the ancient world to now, you follow the banking scam of lending money that doesn't exist and charging interest on it, which is very, very relevant. But you also find them taking part in blood-drinking rituals and human sacrifice. And the more you kind of understand about this as I research it and understand more, is the more you realize that these sacrifices to the gods, like the Aztecs and so many others were involved in the ancient world, were literally sacrificing to these people. Because for some reason, blood is very important to them, these particular bloodlines. And so you start to understand why the endless stories that are emerging now about the ruling elite and the major figures of the world and how they're involved in blood-drinking rituals and human sacrifice, the same as the ancients were when you follow the bloodlines back. And it all kind of fits between the reptilian theme and what's actually happening.
David, we know about the hybrid issue. We know about abductees taken and then put back. Do you have any evidence to sustain the concept that there are people being abducted who aren't being brought back, who are being consumed or sent elsewhere, and that's the end of them?
Well, only evidence in the sense that people say it's going on. Obviously, evidence in terms of hard evidence of seeing it. Well,
right.
I mean, we're not going to get there yet.
But you are hearing this kind of thing.
Very much, and it all fits. I mean, you see, when you again, because the amount of time this has been going on in our history.
Well, it's been going on forever.
Yeah, exactly. But in our known history, as we call it, it's been going on a few thousand years. Now, in the passage of time, that is not even a blink of an eye. So what's happening now is what's been happening throughout what we call known human history and before. And therefore, when you go back and you see what happened in the accounts thousands of years ago, and then you can mirror it with what's happening now, even down to the rituals. The rituals, the people that have been in these rituals and survived them and seen them, and of course most people don't, and therapists I've talked to around the world who are working with the debris, the human debris of these satanic and sacrifice networks and the broken minds and emotional levels that they're dealing with. They all tell me about the deities that these guys do these rituals to, and they're the same deities that you find in the ancient accounts. One of them is called Moloch or Molech, where they sacrifice children to this deity. Now, some of the most famous people in the world. You look in the Old Testament accounts and others, and you'll find that it talks about how the people put their children through the fire to Moloch, or Molech, who is symbolized as an owl, which is why you have the owl symbolism in Bohemian Grove with the 40-foot stone owl. And it's why you have the owl symbolism in the Illuminati secret language. So what we're looking at today is merely the modern expression of something that's been going on throughout known human history. And to understand that, you start to realize there has to be a common force. I mean, many people have said to me, well, how could it go on over all these thousands of years? Because people die and all that stuff. Well, there is a common theme, a common force that has spanned this period of time, which has been working to a common agenda. And that common agenda is the takeover of planet Earth. And it's interesting that one of the things Credo suggests is a thing that's occurred to me, certainly. His feeling is that this reptilian group are seeking to change the atmosphere of the planet so it suits them and doesn't suit us. And I must say, I just tell you about the synchronicity of life. That when life's trying to tell you something, the first time I met Credo was about 18 months ago, and we talked for about 5 hours about the global manipulation and its extraterrestrial connection. But then this time, just a few weeks ago, we really got into this reptilian stuff deeply and more. But after that first talking to him and how he was saying the Illuminati and extraterrestrials are actually connected, I went back to the house in Johannesburg where I was staying and just wrote down on the laptop what he'd said for reference. And then I went down and sat in the lounge, and everyone had left. But the television was left on. And I'd been in South Africa for the first time 3 days. I didn't know anything about South African television. What channel it was. I just sat there and I thought there's some advertisements on. I thought I'll wait to see what comes on. Bit of chewing gum for the mind for a night, you know. And what came on, literally 2 minutes later, was a film I'd never seen or heard of before, called The Arrival. It came out about 1991.
Oh,
and The Arrival was the story of a reptilian extraterrestrial race that took over the planet by looking human, by manifesting a human body around itself when it was out among human people, and that the agenda in this film was that they wanted to change the atmosphere of the planet so it suited them and not us, and that these reptilian beings hiding in human form are actually controlling NASA in this film and were changing the atmosphere of the planet. Now, because there's not many of these, and it's interesting that Credo says the same, there's not many at the peak of the pyramid of this manipulation. Mm-hmm. They have to manipulate humanity to imprison itself. They have to manipulate humanity to operate in ways that change the atmosphere of the planet.
That's right. Well, that goes back to your original story years ago about how we don't need police anymore. We police ourselves. We're that well trained. Be right back.